Today we're taking $7 in Walmart to see if we can feed a family of 4 for an entire day. My first stop was to get a banana. This was only 20 cents, and then 2 ears of corn. If corn isn't in season when you're watching this, you may want to consider getting a can instead. But today we're just going to be getting this small can of peas and diced carrots. My next stop is to get this Jiffy biscuit mix that only requires water. This is going to make quite a lot. And then we're going to go across the aisle to these Martha White muffin mixes, which have gone up in price, but I decided to go ahead and pick banana nut. I grabbed this great value cream of chicken soup, and then I went to the back and got a half gallon of milk for about $1.30, and then I went to the discount bakery section to look for just a little bread to spread our meals a little bit further for this day, and I landed on this pack of 2 rolls for 69 cents. So I'm going to check out with all of my items and show you what I got. My total came to $7.10, and I feel like we got quite a lot of food for that. So we started with our banana, and then I got 2 ears of corn back here. I got that can of peas and carrots, the can of cream and chicken soup, 1 russet potato, the box of buttermilk biscuits, the banana nut bread, a half gallon of whole milk, and this pack of discount bread. For breakfast, I'm going to make these Hawaiian-inspired banana pancakes using the muffin mix, the milk, and our banana. I'm going to start by just opening up my package of muffin mix here, and the back is going to call for a half a cup of milk, and I add just a little bit extra to give it that pancake batter consistency instead of a muffin consistency. Once I get this mixed together, I'm just warming my pan up with some butter. When we went to Hawaii on our honeymoon, they had these amazing banana pancakes where they sliced the bananas and put them on top of the pancake batter so that when you flip it into the butter, your bananas caramelize. I think about them all the time and thought they would be great for this breakfast because then we don't need anything else to pair with the pancakes because they do caramelize really nicely and I think really fill the gap in for syrup. I ended up using about a 1/4 cup of batter for each pancake, and this ended up giving me 8 pancakes in the end, so 2 pancakes per person, and that was a perfect serving amount. I'm just thinly slicing the bananas and placing them on top of the batter, and then like I said, once you flip these over, the bananas are going to caramelize on the bottom of the pan, and you'll have this nice, sweet, syrupy taste to your pancake. These come out nice and golden, and we each had 2 to eat, which was the perfect amount. And one note about the milk, we only need about 3 cups of it for our other recipes, so feel free to use some of that for breakfast as well. For lunch, we're going to make this delicious corn chowder using our 2 corn on the cob and our russet potato. I'm just going to get this potato washed and peeled, and then I'm going to start dicing it into pretty small chunks, just slightly bigger than the corn kernels. This is a really simple recipe that's going to come together really quickly. But one thing I did want to note is you notice how we're not using any processed ingredients in this meal. Now, sometimes that's completely unavoidable in these kind of extreme budget challenges, but sometimes just buying straight whole foods from the produce section can make a really filling and delicious meal on an extreme budget. In fact, this meal reminds me so much of the kind of thing that my grandmother would eat for lunch very often. Just boiling some vegetables together with some bread on the side is definitely a very southern meal, but this was very satisfying and my kids loved it. Next, I'm going to start cutting the corn off these cobs. Like I said in the beginning, if the corn is not in season right now, when you're watching this, feel free to get a can of creamed corn instead. When you're done cutting the corn off the cobs, gently run your knife again over the cob, and that's going to milk the cob and give you that sweetness and sort of milky texture of creamed corn, and we definitely want that for this soup to just add extra flavor and sweetness. I'm adding this straight to the pot with the potatoes, and then I am going to get a towel to clean up all of this corn because cutting corn off the cobs is kind of messy. That's the one downside, but we got all of that corn for like 60 cents, so I definitely think it's worth it. We're keeping it simple and just adding pepper and salt to this. Remember that your corn did not come out of a can, so you're probably going to need a little bit more salt than you might be used to. We want to use our salt to add a lot of flavor to corn and potatoes, which are otherwise not very strong in flavor. You're going to just barely cover this mixture with water, and then we're going to cover it and cook it on high for about 15 to 20 minutes until the potatoes are nice and soft. If you're using canned corn, you'll actually just want to boil your potatoes by themselves, but if you're using corn on the cob, you want to go ahead and add that corn in there now and give it plenty of time to cook. Once it's boiling really well and your vegetables are soft, we're going to add 1 cup of our milk, and that's what's going to make it so creamy and like a chowder. You don't want to add the milk until the end because you don't want your milk to burn or stick. Once you've added the milk, you'll want to stir this more continuously, and you're going to leave it uncovered to cook down. I made a small cornstarch slurry where you just mix a teaspoon of cornstarch with about 2 tablespoons of your milk, and then we'll add that in while the pot is boiling, and it's going to thicken this chowder up really nicely for us. This is totally optional, but I like to add a pinch of sugar just to accentuate the sweetness of this dish. This recipe blew my mind with how many servings we got for so few ingredients. This was really satisfying and kept us full until dinner time. We just sliced that discount bread and toasted it, and it was the perfect addition to this corn and potato chowder. For dinner, we're making pot pie dumpling soup, and we're just starting with our can of cream of chicken soup. And then we're going to add 1 can of our milk and then 3 cans of water to this. We're really going to thin this out into more of a soup base. We want to bring that soup mixture to a boil, and while we're waiting on that, we're going to put together our dumplings. We're going to use this biscuit mix and follow the package instructions, but we are going to add just a little bit less water than it calls for so that we can make our dumplings nice and stiff. We're just going to do drop dumplings, but you could roll these out as well if you'd like to. So I'm just flattening them into little strips or discs, whatever you want to do, and getting those ready while I'm still waiting for my soup mixture to boil. You want to salt and pepper your soup mixture to taste. I didn't find that it needed much salt because that cream of chicken was pretty salty, but a little bit of pepper does help. Once my soup base came to a boil, I started dropping my dumplings in one at a time, giving them plenty of space so they didn't stick together too much. And then we're just going to let that keep boiling. You can tell the dumplings are done when they start floating to the top like this, and then we're going to stir in our can of peas and carrots. We want to wait till the end because these are already pretty soft as it is, and this may not be your preferred flavor, but I did just want to try to add a little bit of veggies to this dish. Again, this made quite a lot of food. We had at least 4 servings out of this, and everyone really enjoyed it. It definitely kept us full as well. Remember, these meals are not designed to be eaten long term. These are for days when you may only have $7 left to feed your family with. Sure, these meals could probably use a little bit more protein, but these are emergency meals for a reason. It's better to eat imperfect food than to not eat at all. If you like these types of videos, be sure to subscribe to Simply Scratch Kitchen for more.